We're coming up to the last couple of corners. The pace car leads them through. They now have to gather together in preparation for the start. On board with Team Great Britain. He's starting from 10th place. Quite a slow pace as they come around the final corner. This is turn 14, heading up towards the line, and the pace car heads into the pits. And now we wait for the start of the sprint race, and we're racing. Everybody going for it as they come out of the final corner. And who's going to make the run? New Zealand going side by side with Team Germany. Contact made in. They're going into the first corner. Malaysia diving down the inside. It's Malaysia.
And New Zealand's off track as well. They've run wide. They're into the gravel trap, and Johnny Reid got squeezed out. Now, he wasn't involved in an initial contact. We don't know who was.
It might be Germany, because I can't see Germany. I wonder if it was Team Germany that ended up off, John. And it's Malaysia, China trying to battle with. France has made a great start. France coming through. Great Britain in the middle. Lebanon there. Brazil trying to get through there as well. And yes, it is Germany that's out. Germany, New Zealand tangled, coming down towards the first corner. New Zealand's car got damage as well.
Well, look behind, drivers going one way, then the other. China diving down the inside. Czech Republic trying to find a way round as they come through turns 5 and 6, and they begin this drop down in the stadium area.
Alex Young is leading this race for Team Malaysia, but Canada running in a fantastic second place. And I think France is well up too. Let's just see when they come through. New Zealand, though, in trouble. Look, he's got a punctured rear tyre.
And again, round the track, Ireland and India, they're battling as they come through turns 8 and 9. These are the slower of the two. There is Germany's car, Nico Hülkenberg, out of the car, and we don't know quite how that contact occurred, but both drivers clearly on the front row of the grid, trying to maximise that front row grid position.
France is in third position. I'm amazed at the first lap that Nicolas Lapierre has had. He's in third place. He started down on the grid in 7th position, and 8th place it was in fact, and he's come up to third. So a brilliant getaway by him. Team GBR still down in 9th place, side by side battling. Indonesia trying to come through there. Got South Africa behind, and South Africa had a poor start, so South Africa's got massive amount of work to do.
And with the rolling start, everybody was bunched together. So tight. Ireland going around the outside of Australia. Michael Devaney gets that pass made, so he's picked up another place, and Michael Devaney is approaching this race with a different attitude. He just says, I'm going to wring this car's neck, and if I get performance, then I'll move forward.
So Malaysia leads at the end of the first lap from Canada, France, China up there in 4th place, the Czech Republic 5th, USA 6th, Mexico moved up to 7th place, Switzerland in 8th, and then Great Britain in 9th and Brazil in 10th position. Riding on board with the Czech car now in 5th place, and it's China just ahead. Frankie Cheng doing a fine job once again. Can he hold on to a good result? Australia there battling with Italy. That's for 14th position. There's the race leader, the yellow and white colours of Team Malaysia.
Canada running behind, and then it's Team France in 3rd place. Everything now is settling down after a very excitable and exciting first lap. As the drivers, and we can see there, South Africa also trying to make up some progress after they had a poor start. And really, the consequence of that contact between New Zealand and Germany, which was at the front of the field, threw a real joker into the pack behind. They didn't know what was going on, and they spread all over the racetrack.
On board here with Alex Young, the man who took advantage of it, and as you said, John, a clever thinking driver made the most of that situation. But Canada coming up from 5th place on the grid. James Hinchcliffe also drove brilliantly well, managed to avoid all the dramas ahead of him. Canada running in 2nd place, and France, a fantastic opening lap, you have to say, for Team France and for Nicolas Lapierre.
Well, so far we've only seen one flying lap as we look at New Zealand back in the pits, and they'll send this car back out. They need to run the car to check, is there any damage beyond the puncture that we saw when Johnny Reid came in. So they take the car back out, make sure everything is as it was at the end of qualifying.
Oh, it's such a shame for New Zealand and Germany. Can you believe it? They came together on the run to the first corner. They're sister teams. They run with the same engineering crew, and they're both out of this race effectively. Malaysia still leading this one from Canada. David Sears there on the left looking after the engineering. Colin Giltrap there too, seat holder for New Zealand. It's all gone to pieces now. Let's have another look at the start, John.
Well, we see Germany at the head of the field, but how that contact arose, I mean, it's that car, there was interlocking wheels, and it was between, let's be on board with Germany, and it's a move over to the left, and that's the reason why Johnny Reid was moving from right to left. That's what I suspected might well happen going into turn 1, because the right hand part of the racetrack was the dirtier line. Johnny Reid wanted to get across as quickly as possible, but Nico Hülkenberg from Germany was there, and he wasn't going to concede ground.
And then Malaysia slipped through on the inside of Canada. New Zealand had the damage. That's why that black car ended up in the gravel trap on the outside. And everyone else actually did a pretty good job. That was the reaction in the Malaysia camp when they saw Alex Young leading.
Well, you never ever discount Alex Young. He's one of those people, he's impassive about everything he does. He just looks calm, quiet, gets on with the job. He slipped into third place in qualifying, and it wasn't even noticed until the final qualifying positions were put on screen. Here he is leading the race. He's got control of the race. He seemingly has got Hinchcliffe for Canada under control. The fastest race lap on lap 2 has gone to Malaysia by about half a second from Hinchcliffe for Canada.
Very important to get a good fastest race lap, because it does contribute to your grid position for the feature race later in the day. So they'll all be thinking about that. Malaysia leading with the fastest lap so far. Canada in a strong second place. Then Team France, Team China, and then the Czech Republic. USA holding on to 6th, Mexico 7th, Switzerland 8th, Great Britain and Brazil all holding station.
And there's one thing I think probably at this stage we can guarantee the viewers, that whoever wins this race will not have won one of the 2 races that have taken place so far in A1GP.
No, that's right. You haven't got South Africa up there, and you certainly don't have Germany up there either. So we're going to have a new winner for this season, although Malaysia have won in the past. And Alex Young so far holding off Team Canada. Just outside the top 10, let's just tell you that Lebanon are running 11th. The Netherlands are in 12th. Then Ireland's gained 5 places from its original starting position. Australia then 14th, Italy 15th. South Africa is down in 16th place, just ahead of India, Indonesia, Singapore, Greece and Pakistan. So we've still got 21 cars running, but of course 2 cars out of this, and then New Zealand and Germany.
Well, on this lap, with 7 to go, France in fact are beginning to start to edge slightly closer to the tail of Canada. They've got a fastest sector time in sector 1 for France. This battle going on. This is a battle with Lebanon, Netherlands and Ireland, and literally you can barely get a string between them.
So the bright orange car of the Netherlands ahead of Lebanon. Graham Rahal driving for them here this weekend. First race in A1 in the second season. Right behind him, Team Ireland. They've made a lot of changes to this car overnight, and Michael Devaney is now trying to take advantage of that.
Yes, and he's also been able to make up positions, and part a lot of that was due to the start, but I think also there's a slightly different approach to this race. I mentioned it earlier, Michael Devaney and the team talked through all evening what the problems are, and one of the difficulties young, inexperienced drivers have is to give the team the information to enable them to make progress. And I think the consequence of that conversation was, look, get out and drive the car. You've got to turn the steering wheel to make the car turn, not just allow the car to be turned by front wheels. Racing cars turn with 4 wheels.
Malaysia still leading as he comes across the line to complete what is now 4 laps. His advantage over Team Canada, some 1.2 seconds. And Malaysia got this all under control in the early stages, but it's a short race, remember. So he's looking pretty at the moment. Canada then just 1 second ahead of Team France. And France, as you say, looking quite fast on that last lap. Slightly quicker than Canada anyway. But can Nicolas Lapierre for France get a little closer to the back of the Canadian car? China then running in 4th place, just ahead of the Czech Republic, who in turns only just ahead of Team USA.
Well, I think you might say Alex Young is in the Czech crown seat because he's controlling the race. He's running at a pace, a middle 1 minute 47. That's all he has to do. He doesn't need to run any quicker. He doesn't need to win by 10 seconds. He needs to win by 0.1 of a second.
Remember, only the top 6 score points in the sprint race, top 10 score points in the feature race. Here's a good little battle going in on Italy versus Australia for position, and Italy slipping into 14th place, and South Africa will try and take advantage.
Yeah, South Africa was looking to try and get under the back of the Australia car coming through turn 6, but couldn't get it done. Australia wide through 7th, then closes back into make his apex, where other drivers are holding a much tighter line. Now down the inside for South Africa. Not far enough up to get the job done.
Not quite there. So Stephen Simpson for South Africa has to sit behind, but now he's got a good run out of turn 9, has he? Although he couldn't quite use it all. It's down into turn 10, downhill braking, possible to overtake. Can he get alongside enough here sufficiently? He's going for it, and he makes the move.
Yes, and he gets his car alongside. That's all he has to do. But Australia trying to come around. South Africa suddenly slowed down. A problem for South Africa.
What happened there? I don't know. Indonesia went through, but suddenly the South African car slowed down, both India and Indonesia.
It's almost as if he switched off by mistake. A switch, everything just stopped. He made the move, perfect move, going into turn 10, and then all of a sudden, no gas.
So very strange for South Africa. Australia then now are in 15th place with behind them India. and then Indonesia, and there's South Africa having pulled off. Well, that's just brake smoke. That can't...
Yeah, but it's only one brake that is smoking. There's a lot of smoke coming from that right front brake, now the left front also. And the problem is when the brakes have suddenly, you've been braking very heavily into a corner, particularly downhill, the front brakes seemingly put more of the responsibility to slow the car down, and then you come to a sudden stop. There's been no chance for cooling air to get into the air ducts to dissipate that heat, and often you have, in fact, even a little pad in the caliper might get hot and start to light. I think that was Brazil dropping a wheel off as they came out of turn 9 to drop down into turn 10.
Absolutely right, yes, but no problems there. They're still in one piece. So top 10 is still Malaysia, Canada, France, followed by China. And China on for its best ever result here. If they can hold on to 4th place, that was Great Britain going wide.
Indeed, yes, and it was actually Brazil directly behind. So apologies to Brazil. That was Robbie Kerr and Team GBR, who is in 9th place. He's not really made up very much ground. In fact, he lost ground in
Look at this, Team USA trying to get past the Czech Republic, and USA, Phil Giebler really racing around the back of the Czech Republic car, might have a chance here.
Yeah, but Nomazenga knows this circuit. He knows he can run in the middle of the racetrack. Then this uphill climb into 11. You've got to keep it neat in the inside. But Phil Giebler is going to get a better run off this turn 12 up the hill. He's using power boost, but he's not really close enough. But there is the gap. It is reducing.
Czech Republic using their final power boost, as you can see, and remember that adds another 30 brake horsepower to what's available for the driver, and it allowed him to just ease away from Team USA. Most of the front runners have used most of their power boost, although both France and China still have 2 opportunities left. They have a total of 4 available in the sprint race.
Yeah, it's interesting that Malaysia opportunities to use power boost in the lead. I don't know why he needed to do it, but probably just to give himself that little cushion. He may well have used it initially on the run down into turn 1, which is understandable. And of course, with power boost, the minute you lift the throttle, then it disengages it. So it's only in parts of circuit where you've got a reasonable length of straight that it is worthwhile taking advantage of power boost.
The only the only team still with all 4 available, I think, is Team Ireland. I wonder if they're going to use theirs towards the latter stages of this race. There's only 4 laps to go, though, in the sprint race at Brno. Malaysia leads by 1.5 seconds from Canada, France in 3rd place, China followed by the Czech Republic, the USA, then Mexico, Switzerland, Great Britain, Brazil still holding on to 10th place, but it's only the top 6 that are scoring points here. USA keeping the pressure on a little bit to the Czech Republic, but not as close as he was last time down through this section. So Enger's managed to make just a bit of a break there. And there's the seat holder on the left there, Rick Leininger for Team USA. Important that they're still scoring points, and they could still be on for 1 point if they hold on to 6th position.
Indeed they could. So exit out of turn 10, the climb uphill, and it's a comfortable 1.5 seconds. If ever 1.5 seconds is comfortable, that's the advantage that Malaysia has. But we're looking here at France as they look up towards Canada. This is the exit out of turn 12. This is the flash straight, and Canada just drops a wheel off, and that's going to give France a little hope that maybe there is pressure being inserted on the Team Canada. Young James Hinchcliffe in the car for the 2nd time in 2 races.
Yeah, that's what we might see a little more of, the little mistakes being made, particularly when we get into the feature race. So far, so good for Malaysia with 3 laps to go. They've got a little bit more of a lead now, 1.7 seconds. Fastest lap in this race still to Malaysia. That was on the 2nd lap when the tyres were still very fresh. And so that means that they're on for the fastest lap in this race, and just that will help them on the feature race grid.
Well, the battle that was taking place between Netherlands, Lebanon and Ireland, the Netherlands have managed to pull away from Lebanon, but Ireland and Lebanon are still battling away. As we understand, there's a steward's investigation now taking place regarding the incident at the start of the race between New Zealand and Germany. So that'll be an interesting little scenario. And from what we saw, not that we want to influence the stewards, but it looked as if there was a move from right to left from New Zealand. Germany chose not to move, and then the contact occurred right at the front of the field.
Yeah, and what a great save for those 2 front row men, but it's allowed 1 or 2 others to shine, and Team France here certainly took advantage of it to move up into 3rd position. And Nicolas Lapierre, who had a similar result in the sprint race at Zandvoort, desperate to be in a good place for the feature race. There is Nico Hulkenberg. Good to see he's unhurt. He was out of the car very quickly, of course. No injuries to either driver, but a horrible way to start the day.
Yes, we think there are no injuries. The trouble is when a driver has an incident like that, particularly in the case of Nico Hulkenberg, where the car did get up air, and it's almost sort of went aside, that the steering wheel can give a big torque and there's always danger that you injure your wrist or hurt a ligament in your wrist, but everything looks fine for the young German.
Canada then heading for second position here. When they come past the pits this time, there'll be just 2 laps to go, and he's doing a fine job, as young James Hinchcliffe, of keeping at bay the title holders from last year. A1 Team France might have been the most successful team in A1GP in the first season, but young James Hinchcliffe is no fool, and he's staying in front now. A little discussion there, interesting, between the German driver and the New Zealand driver, having a little talk about what happened, what put them both out of this race.
Well, what put them both out was that neither was prepared to concede. That's the fundamental reason. How the stewards adjudge that responsibility, that guilt, well, that's up to the stewards to decide, and sometimes we would agree, and sometimes we'll agree as well.
So Team Malaysia, the one to take advantage of it's Canada as well. France again pretty close to the back of Team Canada. If Hinchcliffe makes any mistakes here, then you can bet that Nicolas Lapierre is going to dive through, but so far so good, and Team Malaysia are keeping everything pretty much crossed at the moment, hoping that they're going to take their first win of this second season to follow up on the victory that they enjoyed at the end of last year in Shanghai. They struggled in practice here, John, and you know, they don't have a rookie driver, so they missed out on that Friday early session, and yet he turned it around so impressively in qualifying, and now look at Young, he's got a very healthy lead.
Well, it almost happened, as I mentioned earlier, unnoticed pretty much to us in the commentary booth, and I suspect some of the people in the pit lane also were slightly taken aback by the last run that Alex Young put in for Team Malaysia to get onto the second row of the grid, and all of a sudden, well, where did he come from? When he came from the back up to the second row of the grid position. They did a good job on the engineering of the car. They've got an experienced driver who has won an A1GP. He's also one of those drivers who we classify as a thinking driver. He's not all right foot and nothing else up above.
Second place Canada, third place France, but China is still in fourth position, and China is heading for its best ever result in an A1GP race, and that's a stunning effort from Frankie Cheng. Going on to the final lap then, it's all looking good for Malaysia, Canada and France, but look at the fourth place car there. Frankie Cheng, Kung Fu Cheng to give him his full title, but Frankie, as he's known to everybody, is heading towards China's best ever result just before we all go to Beijing for the first Chinese race of the season.
And as we got that head-on shot of the cars coming down pit straight, I think the reason that accident occurred at the start on the first lap was because there is a lot of rubber on that inside line going into turn one, and Johnny Reid knew that if he went across that rubber he would get pickup, he would lose a lot of performance, because pickup on a tyre equals suddenly 2, maybe 3 seconds a lap loss in lap speed. So he had to get from right to left as quickly as possible, but of course you just can't barge into another competitor and not have any responsibility for the incident.
Last part of the last lap coming up here, and Malaysia cruising now. I'm sure they've got everything sorted. A healthy lead, the fastest lap already to Alex Young, and now he's just got to finish off the lap. Last part to do. A little bit wide there behind him was Team Canada, noticed. I don't think it's going to put him under pressure from France, but there was a little mistake there from Hinchcliffe.
Yeah, there's the difference in speed between these two cars is about a tenth of a second a lap here or there. But I mean, I think France will decide that they're fairly happy. But of course, what will determine who starts in the front row alongside Malaysia is who has the individual fastest lap, whether it is France or Canada, and that will then have to be looked at, because if France can get the fastest lap and finish third, then it's a judgment as to who had the second fastest lap between France and Canada.
Out of the final corner, it's Team Malaysia that's going to take the victory in the sprint race here at Brno in the Czech Republic. A great drive from Alex Young, second to Canada, only their third ever podium finish, and Team France, as ever, recovering from a disappointing qualifying session to come through in third place, but the best ever finish for Team China, and that's something to celebrate. A1 Team China finishes in fourth place, and that's a superb success for Frankie Cheng. There's Mark Hines, his driver coach, and the team will just be made up about that. But for Team Malaysia, it's a very important 6 points for winning the sprint race.
And that was a relatively easy win. Again, the maturity and the confidence of the Malayan driver gave him the opportunity. He watched what happened ahead of him, he saw the coming together, and he seized that opportunity, took the lead into turn one, and was never headed for the remaining 10 laps.
So a super drive from Alex Young in just about perfect conditions. Thomas Enger representing the Czech Republic well. He's come home in 5th position. I think the fans should be pretty happy with that. Into Parc Fermé, and Alex Young celebrating this victory. It's the second time he's won a sprint race, and he's going to enjoy the moment with the team. Absolutely superb, especially considering how it went in practice for them. Canada, a superb second place for 19-year-old James Hinchcliffe. And good old France, always up there, Nicolas Lapierre celebrating a third-place finish. So here we are, confirmation of the result then, Malaysia, Canada and France, followed by China. And with China celebrating a fourth-place finish, absolutely brilliant for Frankie Cheng, ahead of the Czech Republic. USA in 6th, then Team Mexico in 7th place, just ahead of Switzerland. Great Britain finishing in 9th position, they couldn't move up any further from there. And in 10th place, Team Brazil with Tuca Rocha. Just behind them, in 11th place, we had the Netherlands, and they fought a little bit of a battle throughout with Lebanon. Ireland moved up to 13th, having qualified 18th. They finished ahead of Italy, Australia, Indonesia in 16th place, then India behind them in 17th. Singapore and Greece and Pakistan all completed the order, but non-finishers South Africa, New Zealand and, of course, Germany. Malaysia, however, setting the fastest lap in the race. So it's time for the presentations to be made. Antonin Charus, a pretty good racer himself in touring cars and a big star here in the Czech Republic, a man who owns many dealerships, and congratulating there Nicolas Lapierre, giving him his medal for third position. Second place medal is going to be awarded by former world champion Alan Jones. He's going to hand over to James Hinchcliffe, and well, who knows, James Hinchcliffe in the early stages of what could be a very, very good career. But for Team Canada, it's their third podium finish in A1GP, and he's going to celebrate the moment. And the presentation of the gold medal to be made by Thomas Krusek, who's the general manager of Skoda Transportation. He's going to hand it over, of course, to Alex Young. And there's a lot of clapping and cheering from the boys in yellow right behind Alex there on the outside of Parc Fermé. Good moment for Alex Young. He can celebrate the achievement and the victory.
Alex Young, Team Malaysia, congratulations. It looked pretty tough out there, especially at the start. How did you see it?
Yeah, it was a very slow start, so it was very busy, but just managed to stay clear of the trouble.
That's half the battle in these types of races. What does it mean for you to win another A1GP race?
Oh, it's huge. You know, it's really great. We've had a tough start to the season, so it's really great to bounce back like this. I have to thank my team. You know, the car was superb, and obviously our sponsor, Proton, they've done a remarkable job for us, and we wouldn't be here without them.
James Hinchcliffe and Team Canada, a big day for you. How are you feeling?
Feeling absolutely phenomenal, you know, to get, it's only our second race here, second event, I guess, with the Team Canada team, and for us to come here and get a podium is just a great way to start things off, for sure.
It was an extra bonus for you because you thought you were coming here to do a rookie session. You've ended up having the whole weekend. Yeah,
you know, we, like I said, I was just supposed to come here and do the rookie session, but just based on the way the car was running, and just they wanted me to carry the momentum we had from Zandvoort. So we came here and we struggled really bad on Friday, but managed to pull out a top 6 in qualifying, which we were really happy about. Then just avoided some of the aerial acrobatics on the start there, which was pretty interesting.
James, thanks very much. And finishing third was Team France, Nicolas Lapierre, back on the podium again. But how was your race?
It was not easy, but we managed a good start. You know, we had a bit of bad qualification yesterday, but I think we found what was the problem. And now we're just getting back. We had a safe race, and now we're really looking forward to the second one. We should start a bit more in the front. We don't know yet where, but I think it will be much easier for the second one.
Guys, thanks very much.
Let's look back at the highlights then from the first race of the day. The sprint race held over 10 laps. Around they came then on to take their pace lap, but it was the start of the race, John, that really defined what was to happen.
Yes, and just watch how close the cars. You see Reed, and I mean that contact was a big contact, probably about 120 miles an hour. And Hülkenberg car, the German car, goes a long way down the grass through those corner markers. Fortunately, they're just made of polystyrene. But there, how much the car got up, almost turning over, and then a wild ride all the way down on the grass just before the entry to turn 1.
That was the reaction in the Malaysian pit. Meanwhile, France was also picking off places, and Team Netherlands was involved in a tussle to try and get somewhere into the top 10. They didn't quite manage it. They finished in 11th place in the end. Malaysia kept control of the race throughout and never seemed to be in trouble, but South Africa, it was a different story.
Yes, South Africa had just made a pass downhill, and then all of a sudden at the exit of the corner, the lights went out.
So there was the word between the two drivers that had clashed on the one run to the first corner, but it was Alex Young who made the most of the opportunity to take victory for Team Malaysia, score their first points of Season 2 of A1GP, and to finish ahead of both Canada and France.
Thanks very much. Well, it's a beautiful day in Brno, unless, of course, you are this guy standing beside me, a very disappointed Johnny Reid. Johnny, just tell us what happened. You were on pole position. Talk us through the start.
Well, I led off, and I was slightly in front of Nico, and I had a little bit more. I got a slightly better start, so I had a bit of a run, and then we got close there, and he claims that he was touched by the Chinese car, which then effectively turned him into me. But I can't prove that until I can't officially say that until I've seen the footage. But yeah, they're a very wide rear tyre, and I think maybe someone's just misjudged it there. But yeah, I know, I'm just pushing for the race this afternoon.
How badly damaged? What is the damage to your car?
We were quite lucky. The rear wing was taken off, part of the rear wing, and the rear suspension, and a puncture to the left rear.
It's always difficult to say at this stage, but in terms of having a positive weekend, it had gone brilliantly up until really yesterday. You kind of went off the radar slightly last year in A1GP after some good results. It must be, great for you to be back and to have proved yourself.
Yeah, for sure. It's great to be back and to take pole in my first race in A1GP for 06-07. It's a great achievement, but it's just a shame we couldn't convert it this afternoon.
Johnny, thanks very much. Last weekend in Zandvoort, it all came down to the rookies. This weekend, it all came down to experience. Who'll win the feature race? Well, that's anyone's guess. Back to you.
Thomas Enger, you must be very proud today.
Well, I'm very pleased. The crowd is really great today. There are a lot of people, a lot of Czech flags, fans, pushing me forward. I improved 2 positions from the start of the sprint race to the finish. So we finished 5th. It was great. Now we need to do a bit better in the main race. But so far, I'm really excited to be here on the home ground so far ahead.
Now in China, Alex Jung wins the sprint race. Thomas Enger wins the feature race. Is this a good omen?
Well, let's see. I'll try to repeat that, obviously. But on the other hand, I know the guys are very fast in front of us, and we just need to keep pushing them. But I think we have good car to do it. So let's see. We need to be at the end of the race there.
Have a good race.
Thank you.
Thank you, Simon, and for pointing out the fact that the Czech Republic won after Malaysia won in China. The other point to remember is that the Czech Republic qualified in 6th place for that feature race in China, and that's exactly where Thomas is starting this time.
Yes, and of course Thomas' background currently is in long-distance sports car racing, so he knows what it's all about to do a long race, and also to conserve your tyres, to look after the car, and that, as I mentioned again, is a major part of this 38-lap feature race. Thomas Enger, do not discount him, starting in the 3rd row of the grid, and he'll be a factor come the end of this race.
Yes, indeed, and I think the clever drivers once again could well come to the fore. Now, as we know, A1GP this year is supporting the Nelson Mandela Foundation, which is recognised for its role in highlighting the HIV/AIDS pandemic. And to tell us a bit more about that, Executive Director of A1GP, Richard Dorfman.
Richard, just explain the significance of this 46664 that we see not only in the South African car but in all the cars this season.
The 46664 is the designation of Nelson Mandela's prison number when he was in prison in Robben Island, and has become the symbol for the Mandela Foundation's fight against HIV and AIDS. Mandela and the South African people were very early supporters of A1 Grand Prix, and the South African team car adopted the 46664 designation. We felt, as a socially responsible organization, that we should adopt a charity, and this was a natural extension to adopt the 46664 designation across all of A1 Grand Prix cars, as well as representing it in signage around track and working with the foundation to actually monetize a donation, bring awareness of the foundation to the greater public around the world, because we are a worldwide series.
I suppose that's key to it. It's not just in South Africa, it's the bigger picture, and because A1 does go to all these venues, we can be advertising and generating publicity and hopefully money, I suppose, through this. Is that the aim of it?
That is the aim. It's about building awareness of the foundation and the tragedy that is a worldwide tragedy that HIV and AIDS brings to the world. A1GP, the World Cup of Motorsport, because we travel to 12 different countries around the world. We have 23, 24 different teams. There's a very, very natural synergy about being able to get that message out, and it's obviously very, very worthwhile and important.
Richard, thank you very much.
Let's take a look at the grid then in detail. It is going to be Alex Young starting from pole position by winning that first race of the day. He's now got top spot on the grid, but alongside him it's Canada, James Hinchcliffe. Then it's China and France on the second row. The United States well up with the Czech Republic, all that experience alongside in sixth. Great Britain starting seventh ahead of Mexico. Then it's Switzerland and the Netherlands. Brazil back in 11th place ahead of Lebanon, still looking for their first points. Ireland starts 13th, New Zealand 14th. Then of course Italy 15th and Germany down there as well in 16th place, followed by Indonesia, South Africa, India and Australia, then Greece, Singapore and Pakistan. That's how the 23 nations are all lined up for the start of this feature race, and with that unique way of adding together their results, qualifying positions and fastest laps, that's the starting order.
Good one, mate.
So last preparations being made. For the Greek team, by the way, Nikos Zakos competed in the sprint race, but Takis Kaitazis is going to be racing in the feature race. So they've split the racing duties between two different drivers. That has been done on occasion in the past. Most notably, France did it at the end of last year at Shanghai, sharing the driving duties between Alex Premat and Nicolas Lapierre. Found it didn't really work for them, but they'd already won the title by then.
Of course, Malaysia, they also did that at various events during the first season of A1GP, and frankly I don't think it's to the benefit of either the driver or the team, but that's the option that these nations have got. It's their choice. This is not a drivers' championship as we understand
a few very
motor
special
racing.
words. Emerson Fittipaldi.
Now I think it's time for Emerson Fittipaldi to address
Gentlemen, for the pride of your nations, start your engines.
So, former world champion Emerson Fittipaldi, and of course the boss of the Brazilian A1 team, gives the signal this time for everyone to fire up their engines, and they will get a green flag lap to get the tyre temperature up as normal, and then they'll be coming back to a stationary start, ready to go in the feature race. Alex Young with a clear track in front of him, but James Hinchcliffe, who's proving to be a bit of a star here, the young Canadian who's been racing in the Atlantic Series in the United States. He'd raced in Formula Mazda, Formula BMW over there in the past. It seems to be a natural progression for him to step straight into this A1GP car and be competitive, and let's see what he can do from the front row.
What's been very impressive about James Hinchcliffe, another under 20-year-old driver, only 19 years of age, is he's come over to Europe, he's stepped up to the plate, jumped into a much more powerful single-seater than he's ever raced before, and it's natural for him to do it. It's no problem. He's got plenty of time in the car. He's a very focused young man indeed, and he stands to have a pretty impressive career in front of him if he can continue this level of progress.
But keep your eye on the red and yellow car of China as well, starting in third place. Away they go as the green flag waves, and lots of wheel spin as they try and get some tyre temperature into those big fat Cooper rear tyres, and away they go down towards turn number one. Yet all have moved away cleanly. Our commentary position just opposite the top end of the grid.
Of course, every team was given a fresh set of Cooper tyres, one new brand new set of tyres. They could use them in the sprint race, they could use them in the feature race. We would anticipate that everybody will start on a used set of tyres. That will be a set of tyres they would have qualified on Saturday's qualification. And the idea would be that they would make their pit stop and at that point put on those fresh tyres. Now they will have done a run, they will have done a run either prior to the start of this feature race or prior to the start of the sprint race, simply by they've got the option to run through the pit lane before they take up their place in the grid. So there are one fresh set of tyres available to each team here. Whether they use them here and try and make the sprint to get away, or wait to do it when they make their pit stop, at which point they will probably run for the longer duration after the pit stop than prior to coming in.
The national colours of each and every car glinting in the sunshine here in the Czech Republic. That bright green livery of Team Ireland certainly sticking out now. They've got some work to do, but they did make up quite a few places in the sprint race. Further just behind him, of course, the black car of Team New Zealand that looked so good up front from pole position until it all went wrong into the first corner in the sprint race. Fantastic amount of support here in the Czech Republic. It's wonderful to see how many people have come along. Huge numbers of people on the banking there, all spread out. We've got people in the grandstands just in front of us as well. It really seems to have caught the imagination of the Czech supporters.
Yes, but they've got such a wonderful venue, and every time there's a motorsport event, that's a great opportunity to come out, support it, have an entertaining afternoon. There's lots of activities going on here throughout the afternoon, of course, with the local car manufacturer Skoda seeking every opportunity equally to promote their product, and it's a family affair. Lots of children, in fact, have even brought along their pets. You see dogs on leashes. Thank goodness they're staying on the leashes.
Yeah, just as well. Down to the bottom part of the circuit, turn 10, and then climbing up that very, very steep hill. It all begins with that left-right that you're watching the cars through now, but this is where this 240-foot elevation change really begins, and it's all done in this stretch of tarmac. They call this a horsepower hill, the one they're coming up now for the bikers. Of course, with A1GP cars, they've all got the same amount of horsepower, except when they use power boost, and they have 8 opportunities to use that power boost in the feature race.
Yes, and we did see Alex Young in the sprint race use his power boost very early, and I suspect he probably used it off the line to give him that little bit of extra boost down into turn 1, because by the time he got to halfway through the race, and he led the race effectively from the lights going out, or the car, the rolling start when the lights would have gone out, so he used every part of those 4 boosts that he had quite early, and whether he'll do the same here or not, well, I would not be surprised to see Alex Young take that option to give him a little bit of extra horsepower, a 30 horsepower increase with power boost, activated by a switch on the steering wheel. It is deactivated the second or the millisecond you lift your foot or take pressure off the throttle. Instantly it is disengaged.
They'll go from 0 to 100 miles an hour in just under 5 seconds on the run down towards that first corner, and they'll be even quicker, of course, by the time they'd actually get down there. Alex Young is going to attempt to lead them down there if he gets off the line cleanly. Still waiting for the last few cars. That's Nur Ali driving for Team Pakistan once again. Had a bit of a baptism of fire in Zandvoort last week. Let's see if he can get it together this weekend, and perhaps just get a couple of decent finishes in before the rest of the season gives him a bit of a break, and then a preparation for the next race in Beijing. I think he's just about moved into position. Have we got one marshal standing down there? No, I think all cars are in good position and ready to go.
There's a marshal holding a number 8. Now, whether that's a car's in problem or whether he's just taking that identification away. There's a waved yellow flags down there. I wonder, is a car in trouble?
Well,
so this looks like it could be a delayed start.
It could well be. Yellow flag still waving. No, we've got a green flag from the back. All set to go then for the feature race here in Brno. The Czech Republic gets underway, and it's a good start from Canada. Canada's made a breathtaking start, and it's well ahead of Malaysia. Malaysia's going to have to go to second. Look at the battle behind. Mexico on the inside, Czech Republic in the middle, China on the inside as well, and the United States trying to sweep all the way around the outside at turn number 1. Canada's made a blistering getaway.
Well, that's unbelievable. James Hinchcliffe really got a jump on Alex Young. Alex Young was in the best position to take advantage of his race 50, but cars all over the racetrack. There you see the width as they come into turn 3.
Czech Republic, Thomas Enger trying to gain a place back from China there. Look at them, 3 abreast as they go through turns 3 and 4. So far everybody getting out in one piece. It's Canada from Malaysia, then Mexico, USA, then the Czech Republic.
And again, 4 abreast coming down into turn 5.
And it's tight into there, but you can see Germany trying to make up ground after their problems earlier on, and Nico Hülkenberg was down the inside of Brazil. I think he might have gained that place. Yeah, Germany just managing to stay ahead of Brazil.
And they've got ahead of New Zealand. That was the car that caused the incident at the start of the sprint race. So Nico Hülkenberg, starting 16th, has got ahead of Johnny Reid, who started 14th.
See Ireland go wide. Singapore's off. Singapore has beached the car, and he says push me, and they're trying to push him, but it's not a light car to get off the gravel there when it's beached like that. France has lost out big time.
Pakistan runs very, very wide up at the top of screen as we drop down into turn 10, coming into the lowest part of the racetrack now. The climb back up through 11, 12 is a key corner to get a good acceleration up the hill, up that horsepower hill.
France did not get away well. They're down in 6th place. China and Great Britain down there, but Italy in trouble.
We think there was a car on the grid that wasn't moving. Looks like it was Italy.
Netherlands just up the inside there of France. I think France maybe had a problem there. because suddenly they lost some ground. Race leader Canada, Malaysia, then Mexico in third place. Then coming across the line is USA and the Czech Republic. And France is going very slowly down pit straight. As you can see the battle here between Brazil and Germany. Brazil gets down the inside.
And New Zealand takes advantage of that as well. He slides up inside Germany. Germany comes back all around the outside of the corner. Well, that was brave from Nico Hülkenberg. Now there must have been power boost being used by Brazil to get a run like that. Now Germany comes along on the outside, but he's going to have to go the long way around turn 3 to make it stick.
And meanwhile, Ireland's trying to get past Lebanon just behind. They're all on the dirty stuff. New Zealand's going to try and take advantage of this. They're all racing for 10th place, this little group. But I can tell you that France are in trouble. They were slowing down the pit straight. Back on board with Germany, and he's still racing here with New Zealand. These two who had contact in the sprint race.
And again, he takes the line, but forces him wide. Johnny Reid sees what's going on. He takes the later turn in, gets under Germany, and this is a battle that's gone on since this race started, just over a lap ago.
So Brazil now 9th, New Zealand in 10th place, Germany back to 11th with Switzerland right behind them. Then
France in trouble.
Yeah, well, I saw that, John. He came slowly past us on the pit straight, and that was the start of the race when Italy had problems, by the way. That was the stranded car.
And everybody got around it safely. It's always difficult when a car's stuck, but fortunately it was towards the back of the grid. Everybody around Italy was aware, and they made it round safely.
But it was the battle going on there for 3rd and 4th places. China lost out in that battle. They're running 6th at the moment, and they got sort of muscled out of the way there. But it was a great start for Canada, wasn't it? It straight away. Well, that was all pretty exciting, and just taking a look back, that was France going slowly a moment ago. It was onto pit straight that France had its problem, and I think actually it already started slowing. I had noticed already that it had been passed by another car. That's 2 feature races now that France have had some sort of problem.
Well, the luck that they enjoyed last year really wasn't luck. They just did a superb job. So far has not returned to France for this second series of A1GP. But Canada with a 1 second lead over Malaysia. Mexico running strongly. Salvador Duran getting a much better run in this race. Duran finished in 7th place in the sprint race there. Nicolas Lapierre, Team France stepping out of the car. We never saw performance or reliability problems like this for Team France in the first series.
So consternation on the pit wall there for Team France. But Canada lead Malaysia and Mexico. USA and Czech Republic followed by China. Then Great Britain a bit lonely in 7th. The Netherlands in 8th. Brazil 9th. New Zealand followed by Germany, and then the rest of the field coming through. This was where he pulled off.
Yes, he has a problem, and clearly he decided it was safer to pull the car off to safety here by the barrier further around the circuit than attempt to try and drive back and then not be able to put himself in a position of safety.
So it's all over again for Team France, and valuable points are going missing here. The A1 title holders are not having such a good run, but Malaysia has just set the fastest lap, chasing after Team Canada, beginning to close up that gap.
Yeah, so these 2 lead cars beginning to make a breakaway from Mexico in 3rd. Some 2.8 seconds between 1st and 3rd. USA still right up the exhaust pipe of Mexico.
Very good getaway and start. First lap for Team Mexico to be running up there in 3rd place. They started in 8th place, did Salvador Duran, so that was definitely one of the biggest gains at the start.
Well, outside of the front row, everything behind just about went ballistic. Cars running 3 wide into turn 1, then almost off. I mean, at one point I thought there were 5 wide going into turn 3.
Yeah, it was tight, but they all made it through, and I don't think we've got any cars damaged. The only car that's not, I think it is back out actually, is Italy, who stalled on the line. Now, power boosts that have been used, they start with 8 and they count down from 8. So Mexico's used a couple already.
Yes, and Malaysia's used 1. Of course, we saw that battle going on with Brazil, and they were very quick at one point coming down pit straight, so we don't know whether Brazil has been using more than we're seeing from the front runners.
3 laps completed. You're not allowed to make your pit stop until lap number 8 at the very earliest. When the leaders completed 8 laps, you are allowed into the pit, but not until then. No safety car periods as yet. We've had a relatively clean start. You're watching at Team USA running in 4th position, just off a podium finish. Great Britain there putting a wheel over to the edge, but most people are doing that out of turn number 4. Then they go down the hill into turn 5, and there could be a challenge for Germany on New Zealand here. New Zealand trying to get down the inside, and in fact they were ahead there. Germany's the one attacking.
That's a mirror of what we saw 2 laps ago at this corner when it was New Zealand that got under Germany. Germany currently has been showing very, very quick in certain sectors, but the trouble is he can't get all the sectors to come together. He's racing in traffic, he's having to watch what's ahead of him, but principally keep an eye behind him, because Johnny Reid is almost his nemesis here this afternoon, is the driver that's putting him under pressure. and that's a race for 11th place.
Yep, so Germany has got back up one into 10th place now. Brazil is their next target. Tuca Rocha driving the Brazilian car. He's running in 9th place. You can see the gap between them as they come out of turn 10, climb up the hill. The Brazilian colours up ahead of Germany, New Zealand there, and then behind New Zealand it's Switzerland, Lebanon not far behind, and then Ireland, South Africa, Indonesia, India, Australia and Greece.
Once things begin to settle down, Germany and New Zealand, these two cars potentially the quickest cars here on the racetrack. Brazil directly ahead of Germany is running just about 3/4 of a second to a second slower than Germany, but we did see some laps earlier that Brazil had a great straight line speed. They're able to pull out and pass Germany for position.
Yeah, but look at the power boosts that have been used. New Zealand has used 5 of its power boost opportunities already. That seems quite an early stage in the race to have used so many, but of course he's been involved in a big battle there.
Yes, he's been starting. He started 14th in the grid. He has got a car that is capable of winning on sheer pace. He needs to get himself elevated up the field. He wants to get into the top 6 at least before he makes that mandatory pit stop.
Gap between the leaders, Canada and Malaysia, was 1.3 seconds last time around, so it's staying reasonably constant currently. You can see how quickly Germany's caught Brazil, though, on this last lap. Having got past New Zealand, there's no doubt that Emerson Fittipaldi's team is coming under pressure from Team Germany.
Well, in fact, what's happening as they catch up, that's Germany and New Zealand catch up to the back of Brazil, their pace is going to drop off to the pace of Brazil, unless Nico Hülkenberg uses the brain that we believe he's got. This is an outstanding young driver, very talented, but principally very, very focused. He's going to wait. There'll be parts of the racetrack he'll have an advantage. He shouldn't have run, but there's a wide exit from, this is on the exit of turn, I think it's turn 8, going to drop downhill. So can Nico Hülkenberg get a run all the way down to the bottom of the circuit? He's not able to do it this time, but he needs to find the position. The understeer that Brazil is beginning to build up, that's loss of grip, that left front tire, a problem for everybody here because of the predominance of left-hand corners, right-hand corners putting a big load on that left-hand tire. Tire wear is a feature as well as the overall drop-off in performance, which is what you normally expect.
You're riding on board with Team Germany. You've got the telemetry to the right, down to 4th, 3rd gear into these last couple of corners. The Brazilian car missing apexes. He's really struggling to get the car turned in. Germany managing to get the car turned in better, but can he get the run? This is where he needs to be fast. 4th, 5th gear, 6th gear, up to over 160 miles an hour, but is he close enough? He may well be. Get a draft into the first corner. It's close, but not close enough, and he follows him.
But his best chance is to stay as close as possible without losing downforce from the car ahead. Now coming through turn 2, this run up to turn 3, it climbs gently uphill, levels out. You can break inside the 100 metres. Germany looks to go down the inside. Can he get alongside? He's got alongside, and he's made the pass.
Wow.
Brazil was forced to concede that position. Germany is now up to 9th.
Fantastic move from Nico Hülkenberg. Team Germany on the attack once again. The winner of the feature race last time out at Zandvoort, recovering from the accident he suffered this morning, and there's no sign of any nerves after a big crash earlier today. He's absolutely committed. Look at this move again, John.
Yes, absolutely perfect, courageous, well judged. Brazil knew at that point there was nothing they could do. It was a slightly compromised line for Germany. They ran very wide, but they put Brazil into such a position that they couldn't come back, and that's intelligent race driving from such a young man.
So it's still Canada versus Malaysia up front, then Mexico versus the USA, and you can just see them coming through, then the Czech Republic, China and Great Britain, the Netherlands on their own, and then it's Germany. So Germany again the one to watch. How quickly can Germany close the gap, which is now up to the Netherlands in 8th place?
Well, again, it's a question of finding the part of track where your strengths are greater than the car ahead of you. And clearly New Zealand has got a quicker car than Brazil has. But the difficulty that everybody is facing on any racetrack is getting that opportunity. Now, here he comes out of turn 12. He's going to come out of it quicker. You can see already he's closing down on the back of Brazil. Not so easy to find the slot to pass down the inside. It's going to be a late manoeuvre if you plan it, but he's not going to do it here. Watch what he does on the exit of 12, the build-up as they go down into turn 1. Maybe an opportunity. He may need to use that power boost to give him that little bit of extra horsepower. Brazil's not going to get off easy.
No, he's not using it yet, though. We're not seeing any little green light coming up, so he's decided to hold against it. He might try and do exactly what Germany did last time round.
I think Brazil may well be aware of what New Zealand might try to do. It may not be such an easy task for Johnny Halliday and Team New Zealand, but he's very close to the tail of the Brazil car. Now, look, moving right over to the left-hand side of the track, but he gets alongside Brazil, once again compromised. Lock up from the left front. of New Zealand, but Brazil's coming back, taking away that position, but again the cut back once again will favour New Zealand. Emerson Fittipaldi, even though his car is about to lose position, is enjoying it.
It's a good one because it's a great battle between these two. Now New Zealand back down the inside, claims the spot, but Brazil might be able to cut back on the exit of this. No, not quick enough, and I think that finally New Zealand, Johnny Reid has managed to take the place, and that puts New Zealand now into the points, into 10th place.
In the meantime, the car that's immediately ahead of New Zealand, that is Germany, he's up and running, and he's probably pulled out the best part of 100 yards, meters or whatever, and that's the difference between being held up by a car, which was Brazil was doing. They were defending position, fully entitled to do it, but of course you're holding up two cars that were the front pole and front running car in the sprint race.
So New Zealand gaining that place. Just take another look at this as they ran side by side, first of all into turn 3.
There you see the lock-up, but Brazil decides they can take the chance and shoot down the inside. Of course, doing so, you compromise your exit, but you compromise the point when you pick up the throttle before the exit, and it was an easy pass finally for Johnny Reid and Team New Zealand to execute.
7 laps completed. Next time around, the all-important 8th lap will be completed by race leader Team Canada, and then the pit lane will open. Mexico still running third, but look at the USA. USA potentially very quick.
Indeed, just really shadowing Salvador Duran in the Mexican car all around the racetrack. And looking at what we're seeing into 3rd and 4th place, there's not really what I would consider a serious attempt to make an overtaking manoeuvre. Just keep the car clean, keep yourself out of trouble, wait until you make your pit stops. That's really when this race will come alive, and it will either make or break it for many of the nations here this afternoon.
So USA still involved in that battle. There's Lebanon currently running in 13th place. You've got Ireland just behind in 14th, and then South Africa in 15th place. Stephen Simpson driving for South Africa here this weekend. He's pretty desperate to make up some places. He, like Ireland, have really had a rather disappointing time through qualifying and the sprint race, but now they've got to make this feature race come to them. Still very much in the early stages. 31 laps remain of this tough and testing circuit, a track that, as you said, really tests the tyres above all else.
Well, just to give you an indication as to how tough this track is on tyres, is that the fastest race lap was on lap 2, in other words the first flying lap, and that was set by Malaysia with a 1 minute 49.936. Currently the quickest car on track appears to be Germany in the middle of 1 minute 50s at 1 minute 50.425. Everybody else is in the high 50s or dipping into the 1 minute 51s.
There's no doubt that Germany is beginning to close up to the back of the Netherlands. Meanwhile, this has been going on between Italy and Greece. Italy did run a bit wide there, but I think he managed to recover it.
Yeah, he got the left rear, he dropped it down. There was a little bit, let's say, careless in that he was focusing very much on the rear of the Greek car and not focusing on where he was going to finish the part of the corner he was in.
China coming through, still running in 6th place, lost out at the start as we know, having been 3rd on the grid, but nonetheless still running very, very competitively here. Great Britain's behind them in 7th position. You're looking at Team Switzerland currently, they're running 12th behind Brazil, and Brazil's now a target for Switzerland. How is Sebastian Buemi going to deal with this Brazilian car?
I think he's going to do very similar that we have down the inside into turn 1. You've got to be right alongside, you can't take a punt and shoot down and hope that the driver ahead of you is going to say, oh sorry guy, let you take my bit of racetrack. So he's compromised his exit, but he's got lap speed, he's quicker all round the lap than Brazil. This is the corner that Brazil's been vulnerable on, but Buemi for Switzerland's not close enough. But again you see that Brazil not able to make the apex, and all over the back of the Team Brazil car is now that white and red flag of Switzerland.
Yeah, it's tight, but can he find the space he needs? Look at the Brazilian car covering the middle of the road here. He doesn't want the Swiss car to go down the inside, and indeed he couldn't quite make it, but there's a lock-up for Brazil. Here comes Switzerland, almost making contact.
And Switzerland dropped their rear wheel off the track, and he was trying to make that switch back, and able to do so because of the line that Brazil took. But again, through this stadium section, it is not easy to make a pass. All you use this part of racetrack. And again, look how wide on the entry Brazil is. He really is struggling with the front of the car. Again, coming through this turn that leads on to the almost the lowest part of the racetrack. He's still able to maintain a reasonable pace, but it's not going to be a comfortable ride for Tucker Rocha.
No, it really is struggling to get into the corners, that car, and Switzerland's going to try and take advantage of it. Right behind Switzerland is Lebanon, so if these two get into a bit of a tangle, it's going to be Lebanon that does benefit from that, and then Ireland and South Africa. And by the way, Germany has managed to gradually close that gap up to Netherlands, and when they came past us last time, there were only 6 tenths between the Netherlands in 8th place and Germany in 9th. But here we go, back with the Swiss car, still looking for a way past Brazil.
Just put yourself in position. Don't overrun the car going into the corner under brakes, and as we say that, the pit lane is open and there's a flood, or a flurry, let's call it, not a flood, of cars, including the Netherlands, Great Britain, Czech Republic. This is very early in the race, 29 laps you're going to have to run on another set of tyres as we go on board. This is the Czech car, this is the helmet cam, right rear off, right rear on. You're only allowed one worker per corner and 2 jackmen, one at the front, one at the rear.
So have they got a clean stop here for the Czech Republic? Yes, they have. It's a very clean stop. Now, he gets back out. Team Great Britain not on the way yet, I don't think. Netherlands, they're in the pits as well.
Germany's coming out as well. That was a great stop for the Czech Republic, as we see Germany getting caught behind Team GBR. So we don't know whether that was a poor stop from Germany or whether they just happened to get caught in the traffic. So now it is the big winner of that to me was the Czech Republic.
Yeah, but Germany also has gained a place over the Netherlands.
And is going to take another one off GBR. Gets alongside, coming up into turn 3. Robbie Kerr not caught napping, but Robbie will try and go around the outside. Not able to do so. Has not maybe got the security on this fresh set of tyres that Germany has. That's real confidence. That's impressive driving from Germany.
Yeah, he just swept his way past Team GBR, and Germany now defending that line so that Great Britain can't come back into turn 5. Bit of a lock up there though from Germany. Can Kerr take advantage? No, he can't, because Hulkenberg still manages to hug the corner and not run wide.
Well, we know Robbie Kerr is an arch racer, and again looks like he got a nice line coming through that downhill turn 7. Germany slightly wider. He loves to battle, he loves to actually have a motor race, and that's what motor racing to me should be all about. Race leader into the pits, James Hinchcliffe for Canada.
Malaysia takes over the lead as Team Canada comes in for an early-ish pit stop. But remember, the earlier you make your pit stop, the worse your tyres will be by the end of the race. They've got to go a longer distance than those making a later stop.
We see the quickest race lap still remains with Malaysia, 1:49.9. The best lap that we've seen from Germany is in the low 150s. Germany probably the quickest car on racetrack right now. When they complete their first flying lap, that'll give us an indication of the pace. Now somebody's wheel was spinning there as the car came off the jacks. USA, Canada's down, Canada's out, and that was where we get it, but the clock didn't stop running as the car came down. But the best stop we have seen to date clearly came from the Czech Republic. But a problem here for the USA. Left rear, they cannot get the wheel on the dials. The gun goes on, the car comes off the jacks, and this is a poor stop indeed. Disappointing for USA.
That really has cost USA. They were running in a very, very strong 4th place before the pit stops began. Brazil has been in for new tyres.
He stalled the engine. That's the problem. The engine's stalled. They've now got to restart it. So it's all gone wrong for the USA in this mandatory pit stop. First of all with a sticking rear wheel, then the engine stalled, and Phil Giebler, well, he did such a stunning job earlier, and of course in Zandvoort. Now he's going to wonder, well, have I got to do it all again? Can anything come out of this result now?
So the drivers that have, or teams that have not yet stopped up front are Malaysia and Mexico, but USA really going wrong, and it's gone wrong for Team Pakistan there as well. They're just pulling off the track, so no problem for the other teams. I don't think it's going to cause a safety car or anything like that. But there is our race leader. It is Malaysia. Alex Young is now going to try and put in some quick laps on his tyres that have done, what is it now, 10 laps? So
He's in.
He is in.
So he's opted to come in as well. 28 laps to go, so 10 laps of this race have been run. Alex Young deciding that since everybody else has been in, maybe this is the right time for them to make that judgment call as well. I'm still looking to see what Germany is doing, their single fastest lap.
Mexico in behind him, John, so that means that all of the front runners now have been into the pit. So the question is, will they get Malaysia out ahead, of course, of Canada? He was running second to Canada before the pit stops, but Canada did appear to make a pretty quick stop.
New tyres going on for Malaysia. Here is Canada, and they're making their way up onto the start-finish straight. So Canada's going to retain the lead because Alex Young will have to go down this pit lane at 60 kilometres per hour. There is Canada coming down the main racetrack. There on the left of screen is Malaysia, and Hinchcliffe has picked up time over what would be in reality second place Malaysia, but of course until all the pit stops work their way out, they're all over the place.
That's right, but let's just see. Yes, he's come out in front of Italy. He's going to hold on to second effectively.
Fastest laps are now dropping into the low 1 minute 49s. Germany 49.3, Britain 49.3, China 49.5.
Czech Republic, they're involved in that little battle as well. Now that's interesting because the Czech Republic is ahead of Mexico. You were right about a great stop for the Czech Republic, and Thomas Enger's well placed.
That was a superb stop. They got in clean, got out, and that is possibly a podium position pit stop, assuming everything else runs cleanly for Thomas Enger and the Czech Republic here in Brno this afternoon.
Yeah, I think once the pit stops have been sorted out, that will mean that Thomas is up to third. But at the moment, there's a few people who haven't stopped yet, and that includes the likes of Switzerland, Lebanon and Indonesia. So they're still out there. They will take over the lead of this race. Italy, not a factor here. They're a lap down, so they're trying to get out of the way pretty much of the likes of China and Germany. Germany's one of the fastest cars on track, but so is Great Britain, who's sitting right in behind Germany. And Robbie Kerr might try and take advantage of the traffic. I don't think he's going to get the chance because Italy gets out of the way.
Yes, they did, and there's a long afternoon's driving, 27 laps to go on one set of tyres. Stopping at lap 8, 9 or 10 was an easy call, but to think you've got to go 3 times the distance now on one set of tyres. In most cases, those will be brand new tyres, so there will be initially a performance increase, there will be a lap time drop of time, but once that tyre stabilises, then it'll be quite a long way.
This is the lead car now. It's Team Switzerland, and it's interesting that Switzerland and Lebanon are going for the other option. That is, take the gamble, run a bit longer on your first set of tyres, change the tyres a bit later, and then see where it brings you out.
But they're lapping now 2 seconds a lap slower than Canada. James Hinchcliffe's on a 49.0, Switzerland's doing a 51.2, so they really have to come in now, otherwise they're going to drop back simply because they can't carry the pace of the cars that have made that pit stop, got the benefit of the brand new tyre, and of course with the fuel load lightening, there's going to be more speed potential coming from those cars.
Yeah, but maybe late in the race when the other tyres have really got off, perhaps these guys will be in better shape. It's hard to tell at the moment, but for the moment Switzerland is leading. Of the people who have stopped, it is Canada that is on top, then Malaysia, then Czech Republic, followed by Mexico, China and Germany. So for those that have stopped, Canada still in control, but it's a question of how these other pit stop strategies sort themselves out later in the race. I wonder how deep they will go. Remember, you've got to stop between lap 8 and lap 20 anyway, and we're on lap number 13 at the moment.
I think it's a question, if you think you can afford to drop 2 seconds per lap and let your opposition gain that on you, on the other hand, you know that if you make it later, then you've got an advantage at a point when the opposition who did stop early are going to struggle. Well, that's the judgment. That's what people in the pit lane are paid to do. That's what team managers and technical directors are there. So if they get it right, they're the hero. They get it wrong, well, they'll probably blame the driver.
They're in a fair bit of clear air at the moment, which is also helping Switzerland. They're not wrapped up in traffic. There is the Czech Republic, currently 7th, but 3rd of those that have stopped. But right behind him, Mexico. He got the jump on Mexico thanks to that great pit stop, but Mexico's not going to let go. Salvador Duran is tailing Thomas Enger and looking for a way to get back past.
Well, I must say the Mexico car currently looks the quicker of the two cars. We've yet to see Mexico's first flying lap on this fresh set of rubber. Thomas Enger's last lap was a 1 minute 50.6, and that's about a second and a half off what the quickest cars on track are doing, and that lap time is not good enough in spite of the superb stop from his pit crew.
Behind them there's a bit of a gap back to China, but then it's Germany and Great Britain, and let's just see, Malaysia still running pretty well up there. Canada, though, in charge.
But the frustrated Team USA, Phil Giebler, had all that difficulty in pits with the sticking rear wheel, then stalling it. He's gone out on lap 12, has set a brand new fastest lap of the race. Of course, there's a point for that too.
Well, let's see what happens. Still waiting for Switzerland to make their stop, of course, and just getting through the traffic there. That is Malaysia. Malaysia running in 5th place, and that's the 2nd of the stoppers, of course. Canada still the 1st of the stoppers, and that you could just see the gap between them as they came through. Between those two cars, it's something like about 5 seconds.
Well, that was a pass for position. India had been running 4th, it's now down to 5th. They've yet to make the stop, and now I see that Malaysia has made a pass, and he's going to be back more or less behind the man who led this race from the lights going out, James Hinchcliffe in Canada.
So when is Switzerland going to make it stop? That's the big question at the moment. Still out there, still leading this race. Mexico still on the attack here, trying to find a way past the Czech Republic. Behind them, China and Germany. And that's got a little bit of stalemate now there between China, Germany, Great Britain. They're running 8, 9, 10 currently. They'll move up when others make pit stops. Netherlands 11th, New Zealand 12th, Brazil in 13th, then South Africa, Ireland, Indonesia, Australia, USA, of course, after that horrendous pit stop. Well, they're down in 18th place. They're followed by Greece, Singapore, Italy and Pakistan.
On board with Germany, Nico Hülkenberg running behind Frankie Chang for China, and a little bit of a bobble turning into turn 13 for China. So expect to see a bit of pressure coming in China. Power boost being activated by Germany with only 2 shots of it remaining, but Frankie Chang and China have been a strong combination all weekend. But this overtaking spot, not into turn 1. Drivers partly run wide there, Ben, not because it's an error of judgment, but there are a lot of little bumps in that corner which make a car very unstable. So if you can get the bite round that wider line, it is a better way, because it means you have less compromise in your car setup.
Yeah, that's right. And Frankie Chang driving beautifully for China here at the moment. He's got one of the fastest cars, as we've seen already, right behind him in Team Germany. A very fired up Nico Hülkenberg. And yet China, we're seeing no mistakes from him at all so far. And he's keeping him behind him. He's also got Great Britain behind him as well. And this is a very, very impressive run from the young Chinese driver. Lives in the UK, raced in the UK for the last 3 years. In fact, he'll be racing in the UK next weekend when he completes his season of Formula Renault at Silverstone. It'll be a bit of a shock coming back to a Formula Renault car after driving the V8 A1GP car.
Well, Mexico stuck to the rear of the Czech Republic like a doppelganger, and they're closing down very quickly on young Armin Ibrahim in Team India. And again, it'll be use of traffic. Thomas Enge will not want to find himself being compromised, and as they come out of turn 10 and that climb up to 11 and 12 is a part of racetrack. If he can find a way to get past India and put India between himself and Mexico, he will gain some ground and time.
So is the leader Switzerland coming in? Yes, it is. Tight to the inside out of the last corner. Where is this going to bring Switzerland back out onto the track?
And Lebanon coming in directly behind him. Graham Rahal coming in, so the leading first and second cars, and of course the lead will now be returned to Canada as Malaysia will pick up that second slot. There is the run down, Malaysia just coming into turn 1.
So Lebanon in, as you say. Now they will lose a lot of ground. The question is, will their tyres be in better shape by the time we get to the end of the race? Will they be carving their way through the traffic?
Well, the new tyres going onto the back, and Switzerland moves out. They get a jump as India just about to turn into the pits as Switzerland came out, sits on the speed limiter button, side by side Lebanon and Switzerland. So who's going to get the jump? Who's going to blink first?
Yeah, side by side they are. Lebanon gets it. Now that's interesting. I wonder how that will be called, because they were supposed to be in the one lane, I think, coming as they get to the exit.
Yes, they are. But also I just wondered, did both drivers keep the speed limit button on? But look at Switzerland right under the rear wing now, pulls out alongside to the Lebanon as they drive down into turn 3, gets alongside, but again Lebanon has got the option to run the long way round and then he'll be in position, but again the switch back. Switzerland ought to have the momentum off the turn 4, dropping downhill, breaking into turn 5. Lebanon moves across, and you're allowed to make one blocking move. That was fairly aggressive from Graham Rahal, but he's able to control the corner.
Good hard racing between these two. Lebanon have taken the advantage, but it was very much on the run out of the pits that he managed to do that, and Switzerland pushed back a position. These guys now rejoin the fray, which is being led by Canada once again after that demon start off the line. Canada will be in front from Malaysia in second place, but it's very tight between these two, and we'll have to see exactly what position they've been brought out in effectively after their own pit stops. It's going to put them, I think, in about 12th and 13th positions.
Well, they're still showing first and second as we look on our timing and scoring, but of course that's just the overlap until we pick up the first flying lap. And there, Khalil Bashir of the Lebanese team, he must have taken a photograph of the guys doing a great pit stop. That pit stop that got them ahead of Switzerland. So a bit of joy going on in the Lebanon garage.
Yeah, great stuff, and so much of it is how the team gets on. When you've only got one guy per wheel, they're not allowed to come out of the pit garage until the car has stopped in front of them. They have to dash out carrying heavy wheels and the jacks and all sorts. It's not easy. Canada has crossed the line. There is Bobby, Graham Rahal's dad, of course, keeping a close eye on proceedings. Canada leads by 3.6 seconds now over Malaysia. Then the Czech Republic in third with a half-second advantage over Mexico. There are the two that stopped last time around, and indeed they've come round in 12th place for Lebanon, 13th place for Switzerland. Out of turn 1 they come. We've got India back into the pits for some reason. Just see as I glance across from our commentary position. That's a problem for someone, is it?
I think China may have, or certainly a red car, we're not sure. Is it China? I think it is China, in fact, that dropped the wheel off.
And he's lost, I think he's lost a couple of places.
He seemed to drop behind
Germany and Great Britain.
Yes, indeed.
So, Germany and Great Britain have moved up. Germany now 5th, Great Britain 6th, China back into 7th.
So New Zealand looking to find a way past Frankie Cheng, and whether there's a problem for Team China or whether it may be just over usage of the tyre or just maybe fatigue setting in. This is a tough racetrack, nothing as physical as Zandvoort, but nevertheless the preponderance of rights and lefts, big loads one way, then a switch back the other way. But Frankie Cheng has dropped back and now battling with New Zealand, and that's a battle for 7th.
It is, so let's see how far Germany can get. Let's see what happened there. That was actually Great Britain that ran wide,
yes.
And they'd already got past China, so I'm not sure where China had its problem to drop back behind both Germany and Great Britain. Singapore in the pits. It's Dennis Lyon driving for Singapore this weekend. It was Christian Murchison at the first event at Zandvoort. 33-year-old Dennis Lyon, who's raced in the Formula Palmer Audi Series in the UK. He's also raced in Formula Renault in Asia, but it's a big step up for him.
So this is the battle for third. Czech Republic, after that superb stop, elevated themselves up onto a potential podium finish. Salvador Duran in Mexico, capable of running quicker, I believe, than the Czech car, but of course not able to do so. The difference in speed between the two cars at this point is working against Mexico.
It is, but up front, Malaysia put in a lap that was some 9/10 of a second quicker, or 8/10 of a second quicker than Canada, so the gap has come down a bit between the leaders to 2.9 seconds. This battle for third continues between Czech Republic and Mexico, but look at Germany. Germany, I think, is again the one to watch as he tries to close up that gap to Mexico ahead.
He's just 2 seconds behind Mexico, but he will face the same problem Mexico has. Thomas Enger and the Czech Republic is able to run quick enough to make it very difficult for Mexico. Mexico has not been able to find any part of racetrack to use his strengths, and when Germany finds himself being drawn into that battle of two cars, two nations, he will also find it difficult. The best thing that Germany can do is, as he arrives there, is to carry that momentum forward and try and find a way past Mexico rather than get bogged down behind the Mexican car.
Well, let's see what happens as they go through the next few laps. 21 laps still to go. 17 laps have been completed. It's Canada, Malaysia, Czech Republic, then Mexico, Germany, Great Britain, China, followed by New Zealand. You can see New Zealand there running 8th. Netherlands behind them. Then it's Brazil, South Africa 11th, Lebanon now 12th, Switzerland 13th, followed by Ireland, Indonesia, the USA after that horrible stop. Australia are in 17th, then 18th for Greece, and 19th place for India. Singapore still running, they're in 20th.
And look at the battle, very close indeed between Mexico and the Czech Republic coming on to start-finish straight. But Thomas Enger, he knows this racetrack extremely well. Although he's not a local boy to the racetrack, he is the Czech Republic's driver.
He is, and following them are Germany and Great Britain, although Germany, let's just see, about the same sort of lap time that last time. So Germany didn't really close up on that last lap to this battle ahead of him between the Czech Republic and Mexico, but there's still a long way to go, and it's how the tyre wear affects them into the latter stages. You could see some cars, a bit like Brazil earlier in the race, really beginning to struggle if the tyre wear on their car is worse than their opponents.
And of course there's no reason to suggest that they shouldn't, if they feel it is so necessary, to stop a second time, but of course the time penalty in doing so is a significant one, and if you can hang in there with 20 laps to go, you may be losing a second or more a lap, but you got to make that judgment between laps to go, time lost entering, stopping, going back out again, and in fact, would you pick up any time anyway if you changed it maybe only one tyre?
Well, that's the question. That's what we're going to find out as we go through this race. At the moment, though, Czech Republic on home turf, running in a possible podium finish, running in third place, still with Mexico breathing down their neck. And then Germany and Great Britain not far behind. China, who dropped back a couple of places a few laps ago, doesn't seem to be in any lasting difficulties, because the last couple of laps by Team China's been fine, pretty much on the pace. 7th position they're holding on to ahead of New Zealand, although New Zealand was pretty close to the back of the Chinese car as they came past us last time. The gap was only 0.3 of a second, so China may just be struggling a little bit in these later, or halfway stages really, of the race.
Well, certainly China put in a great spurt in the early part of the race, and this is a long race, though the actual distance is no greater than any that we will see throughout the year. The time is a longer time, but stamina, fitness overall, and just experience driving in conditions like this, and that's where the drivers such as Thomas Enger, to some degree Robbie Kerr, and others around him, Alex Young in particular, that's where their strength can come through.
Germany gained 0.7 of a second on that battle ahead of him. There is how close New Zealand is to China. I mentioned they were close last time, and they're very close this time. Is Johnny Reid going to attack, or is he going to save it up for the next bend where we've seen so much action?
I think the best place that most people have been working out is into turn 3, but he doesn't really get a close enough exit to the Chinaman. So the run down into turn 3, if it's going to be a pass, it's going to be a major lunge down the inside. Clearly he's not close enough to take that risk.
Frankie Cheng driving well, getting out off the corners as cleanly as possible. They've got the Netherlands behind them as well. That's Jeroen Bleekemolen, one of the stars, of course, of Zandvoort. He led for so much of the race towards the end of the event on his wet tyres, decided to stay out on wets, and in the end, of course, it meant that he finished in 4th place.
Just to give you an idea of the pace of this race that we're watching, China, the first of those 3 cars, is running 1.5 seconds slower per lap than Team Germany. And that's why Germany is going to come into play in this race. He's now only 1.5 seconds behind Mexico for that battle for 3rd place with the Czech Republic. So very shortly we're going to see 3rd place being squabbled over by Czech Republic, Mexico and Germany. And not far behind that is Robbie Kerr for Team GBR.
We're at half distance. Canada has a 2.1 second lead over Malaysia. That gap has remained fairly consistent over the last few laps. The Czech Republic still running in 3rd position, Mexico in 4th, Germany in 5th, Great Britain 6th, and the top 10 completed by China, New Zealand, who we're watching now, the Netherlands and Brazil. Top 10 score. Look at New Zealand trying here.
Well, he's going to try and put himself up the inside. He's done it. We have not seen anybody attempt something like that. But also watch the Netherlands, because he saw what was going on. He's got the run. He's going to go up between. He's trying to split the New Zealand car and the China car. Can he go the long way around turn 13 and do the same that New Zealand did 1 turn ago? He may not get it done here in the exit of 14. He might have a thought about going down the inside. He's using power boost. He's got that extra 30 horsepower right under the rear wing. Can he pull out? Can he get alongside? The block comes from China. He says not this time.
The Netherlands hasn't given up, and if he can get a good run here through turn 1, perhaps he's going to be quick through turns 2 and to 3.
Do you see that Netherlands car stepped out the back of the car, caught one of the bumps. Oh, and a shunt or a spin certainly for Greece, but Netherlands got caught by the bump just on the exit of turn 1. Car stepped sideways, and heart and mouth, that was the cause for Jeroen Bleekemolen.
Well, up front, no change. Canada still ahead of Malaysia. Germany didn't close up the gap anymore, but it's really this race here. New Zealand have now moved themselves up to 7th. China's back down to 8th place, dropping a bit down the order. Somebody kicking up the dust behind them. Don't know whether that's Brazil or South Africa. They're all in the chase. Here's what happened to Greece.
Yes, just coming through turn 5 and 6, got it wrong on the exit and spun inwards, and hopefully he didn't damage the car against the barrier. No, he got it stopped. But he's in a difficult position because he'd have to reverse the car back out, and I don't think he knows where reverse gear is. He did pay for it, but I don't think he knows where it is.
Takis Kaitazis, that is, driving for the Greek team, and they've certainly had a few different drivers in the car, although he did race at Zandvoort as well, and let's hope they can get that car restarted. Canada still our race leader, though, as we're riding on board with the Netherlands, and it's still the Netherlands versus China in this race to try and move into 8th place.
And there you're seeing on-board shot, that very low front wing shot, and you could see just he was maybe 2-3 feet away from the apex of turn 10. That's the lowest corner on the circuit, and that's an indication that he is beginning to pick up what I suspect most will do. There, the graphics, by the way, giving you the speeds as they climb up to turn 13, just under 140 miles an hour up that steep incline. I think the problem that Netherlands have, and probably others as well, is they're losing front end grip on the left front tyre.
Yeah, and that's going to be a factor for everybody as we go through this race. They've dropped back a bit from New Zealand. New Zealand got past China a lap or so ago, and already some 2.2 seconds ahead of these two. China very much wider line again to avoid those bumps.
Yes, the bump, there's a really nasty bump we saw 1 lap ago. Here is that superb, well judged, I mean a courageous move to go round the outside in turn 11, but he sensed that China wasn't going to be particularly quick in the middle part of the corner. He could run his car wide, he had grip on the outside, and once he got alongside in turn 12, all over.
That's right. Switzerland, who was leading before they made their pit stop, down in 13th place behind Lebanon. But the problem is also Lebanon and Switzerland found themselves catching Brazil and South Africa, and now of course they've got a little bit stuck in line, so the best of their new tyres they haven't necessarily been able to use because they're now in traffic.
But one of the thoughts I had prior to the start of this race, bearing in mind the nature of the racetrack, its aggressive surface and these medium speed corners where there's a big load going on the front tyre, was would anybody have the courage during the mandatory pit stop to assist the driver by making a minor aerodynamic change, because bearing in mind that they may be picking up front understeer, particularly in right-hand corners, either to maybe lift one wing on the front or both, or if they're having severe oversteer problems to take some front wing out, because pretty much everybody's running maximum rear downforce on that rear wing.
Canada and Malaysia, that's the battle up front, and there's nothing to choose between them. Some beautiful laps being driven by both here. 1 minute 50.4 by Canada, 1 minute 50.1 by Malaysia. The gap 1.3 seconds as they came past us. It's all about consistent lappery at this stage.
It may be about consistent lappery, but what's happening in the second series of A1GP is producing consistent youth. Adrian Zaug won the sprint race in Zandvoort. Nico Hulkenberg won the feature race in Zandvoort. They're both under 20. James Hinchcliffe is leading this race, driving with immense maturity. He's only 19 years of age.
So Alex Young, the only odd one out there, being a little bit older than the teenage sensations that are around him in A1GP, but nonetheless he's keeping the pressure on currently. And meanwhile also, as we look back to the battle between the Netherlands, Brazil, South Africa and Lebanon, they're all racing hard for 9th place. I can tell you that Germany got a little bit closer to the back of Mexico on that last lap, slightly quicker lap, and so Germany could still yet pose a threat to Mexico and the Czech Republic, possibly for a podium finish for 3rd place.
Well, it's all about momentum at this part in the race. Here are 5 cars all running effectively line astern, and what happens is the car that leads dictates the pace, and if you haven't got momentum you'll never get past. What you might want to try to do is drop back a little bit, assuming that you're not going to come under pressure from a car behind you. Build up and try and make a move.
USA's got past Indonesia on this lap, but remember they had that terrible pit stop, so they're way down there. They were in 16th, they've just got past Indonesia into 15th. Their next target is Ireland in 14th. Giebler does not give up. He's the sort of grafter of a driver, is Phil Giebler for Team USA. He's not going to let his head drop because they had a bad pit stop, but nonetheless it's going to be a tall order to score any points here.
Well, certainly to get back out in a race having lost so much ground and put your heart and soul into it, many drivers would just go through the process. 15 laps to go as we look on the Team Ireland pit board. We see Dave O'Neill, the team manager.
Look at Germany. Germany's caught right up now to this battle between the Czech Republic and Mexico. And
he's on the power boost as well. That's Mexico, in fact, to defend, because he saw that Germany is under now 3/4 of a second as the gap. Germany's favourite overtaking pace is about to come up. If he can get the momentum off that turn, and he's getting it. He's got... Well, I don't think he's going to be able to do it this time, but certainly he's putting pressure. Now he's going to force Salvador Duran to use his mirrors to start looking backwards rather than worrying about thinking about how can I get past the Czech Republic in 3rd place. I'm going to have to defend even more to defend my 4th place.
This is very interesting to see what happens here. Germany has managed to pull away from Great Britain. Robbie Kerr is still running in 6th place, but not with the kind of pace that Germany's been able to demonstrate. And the pace that we saw from Germany and New Zealand in qualifying is certainly being shown in the race again as they work their way up the order.
2 corners consecutively, we've seen little wisps of blue tyre smoke coming off the unloaded inside wheel of Mexico's car. That again indicates that the pressure is beginning to have an effect. It's a drip effect coming from the young 19-year-old Nico Hulkenberg with a comparatively old 22-year-old Salvador Duran.
Old at 22, there's no hope for the rest of us then. Nico Hulkenberg down into turn number 10. He's closed that gap to Mexico, but there hasn't been a huge advantage in terms of lap time over the last few. He's now got to really chip away at it. Fair distance to go, 15 laps to go, but it may just be a question of being as patient as possible.
And all this is really playing to the advantage of Czech Republic and Thomas Enger. He will know what's going on. He will know that Mexico are now defending as the gap from 1st and 2nd. That gap has come down for the first time to under a second. Alex Young is just wearing down young James Hinchcliffe, putting him gradually, that slow Malaysia torture. Turn the screw, turn it, and then if you think you've given them enough, give them another one just for good measure.
Well, can Canada withstand that pressure? That's the question. So far, so good from James Hinchcliffe, who's proving himself to be a bit of a star. But Alex Young, of course, has more experience of these longer distance races, not only from A1GP, but he's a former Grand Prix driver. He's a former Champ Car driver. You're used to the longer distance and how to measure your rhythm in that long distance.
Yes, and all that rhythm, that's key to how you finish a race. Of course, driver fitness is also key to that rhythm. Concentration, the ability to sustain a performance, a high level of performance. James Hinchcliffe is doing a stunning job, but Alex Young gradually, bit by bit, that's come down to just under a second. It'll get difficult here for Alex Young because he'll now get into the aerodynamic effect coming off Team Canada's car. So it really will be, I think, just stay in contact as close as possible, and then one last spurt of energy, one last spurt of speed to try and take him up to and past Canada. It's going to be difficult for Alex Young, but the experience the ability to run in long races, to modulate his performance over a longer distance, certainly that falls in favour of Malaysia.
But look at the power boost. That doesn't fall in favour of Malaysia because Canada's still got 4 available. Malaysia's only got 2. So that does switch the balance back towards Canada perhaps, because when Young does get close, Canada's got that option to get on the power boost and just ease out again.
Of course, the thing is having the presence of mind to use it. You know, fatigue, lack of concentration, inexperience of driving long distances. This is probably as long a race as James Hinchcliffe has ever driven. He got to drive as a rookie in Zandvoort. He came here to drive as a rookie, and all of a sudden he found himself in the race car. He had no concept of being in a race here on Sunday afternoon.
No, but he's doing a fantastic job so far. He was second earlier on today in the sprint race. He leads this feature race. 13 laps remain now, so still a bit of time to go. Canada, Malaysia, Czech Republic. I just saw Mexico and Germany come past our booth. There's not much difference there in gap between the two. Great Britain still running 6th, then New Zealand 7th, China 8th, Netherlands 9th, Brazil in 10th. They're followed by Switzerland, South Africa, Lebanon. So Switzerland's managed to nip past South Africa somewhere out there. Lebanon 13th, Ireland 14th, USA 15th, followed by Indonesia, Australia, India, Singapore, Italy and Greece, who I think didn't manage to rejoin after their spin earlier.
Well, this battle going on for 3rd place is in effect allowing the battle for 5th place. That's with Germany pursuing Mexico. They're all compressing up, and behind them Robbie Kerr, Team GBR, further 2.5 seconds
Brazil
behind.
spun, and that's Tuckerosha, who spun out of 10th position. He's been passed by Switzerland, he's been passed by Ireland as well.
Well, that looks like it may be just simply a driver error or running the car away just too wide on the exit of a corner, which equates to the same thing. He got it wrong.
Yeah, and he was struggling earlier on, wasn't he, with this? Let's take a look at it again.
He turns, comes through the corner, takes a very, well, he got onto the very dirty part of the racetrack, and why he was using that part of the racetrack, I'm not quite sure, but the consequence of it is that he gets the back end to drift away, and not only loses 1 position but loses 2 or 3 at the same time.
Yes, in fact, Lebanon and South Africa also got past, so he lost some, as you say, 3 or 4 places.
Well, there are the Brazil engineers. They saw it on TV screen, and they may have had confirmation from Tuckerosha. Look at this. Team USA gets alongside Brazil down, and it's a squeeze. 3 cars into 1 isn't going to go, but you've turned 10 it is at the bottom of the hill. USA gets the job done, and now pressure coming from, well, Singapore being lapped and Indonesia diving up the inside.
Yeah,
and this time Ananda Mikkola gets through and he doesn't have contact.
That's right, he's through safely past Singapore, but as you say, he's already running ahead of Singapore. They're being lapped, but Indonesia still with USA. That's for position, and Indonesia will be the next to try and get past Brazil. But it does look as though Tuckerosha's regained his composure a touch after that spin, having lost various places. He's now got to try and get his head together and get on with it, and outside the top 10. It means that Switzerland now is 10th, and that South Africa 11th, Lebanon 12th, Ireland are in 13th.
And what I thought might happen appears to be happening, and that is that Malaysia got to within 3/4 of a second of Canada for the lead of this race, and now Malaysia's getting the effect of running that closely behind the Team Canada car. Here is Malaysia. The gap has opened up. It's only 0.2 of a second from where it was, but of course the difficulty of running so close, as we mentioned earlier, is that you get the aerodynamic wash off the car ahead of you. That then has a bearing on how your car responds as you turn into a corner. And James Hinchcliffe showing huge maturity under a great deal of pressure from a much more experienced driver.
This is a good race still between these two. It's going to go all the way to the flag. 12 laps to go. Canada looking for their 2nd ever win in A1GP. Malaysia looking for the double here this weekend. They haven't ever achieved that. They had a sprint race victory to finish off last season, but they would love to take the double here and become the first nation to win 2 races on the same day in the 2nd year. But behind them, just tell you that battle for 3rd is still on. Czech Republic, Mexico and Germany. When they came past us last time, they were all 3 pretty close. Germany had closed right up onto the back of Mexico once again, so there's not. No, he's just come past us again, and he's dropped away again. So it's a real seesaw that's going on in that battle for 3rd, as Malaysia again just gets a bit closer to the race leader.
Well, the idea is that when you run very close to another car and you see your progress stall out, you just got to drop back. It's difficult here because Mexico's caught in a sandwich with Czech Republic and Germany. They want to maintain the progress, but they know that they can't afford to run too close to the Czech Republic, because that will then slow down their overall pace. That will work to Germany's advantage. But equally, he's got to keep an eye on Germany, because Germany can afford to drop maybe half a second back. get the momentum and sweep up and maybe catch Mexico on the way.
Quite possibly. Thomas Enger driving for the Czech Republic here, of course, also with ex-Grand Prix experience. Another long-distance racer, even more so perhaps, because he's done so much sports car racing in recent years. So trying to run a consistent pace is something he's particularly familiar with. Slightly different perhaps in an A1 car to an Aston Martin, which is what he's been driving recently on the sports car scene. But nonetheless, Enger so far looking pretty much wheel perfect, placing the car in the right place and just maintaining that advantage. He's in third, he's ahead of Mexico, but Germany's still in the hunt, and I reckon Great Britain a little bit closer. Perhaps just Robbie Kerr closing up a touch. He was 2.4 seconds behind last time, maybe a touch closer this time.
I think there's just a little bit of an ebb and flow. The benefit that Team GBR have got is that they are running free of traffic, and therefore they can pick and choose the lines that they choose to do so. But again, there Malaysia right up on the rear wing as they come across start-finish line. The gap previously was 0.8 of a second. It's now under half a second. Another run, and the power boost from Canada being activated. Malaysia not this time. Malaysia just simply more pace off turn 14 onto pit straight.
Drip, drip, drip. Alex Young keeps the pressure on here, and Canada is beginning to suffer.
And Alex Young is such a sweet guy out of a car. You wouldn't think he would be as mean as he's being to James Hinchcliffe in Team Canada.
He just keeps relentlessly pushing here, closing that gap up a little bit more. Can he force the mistake from the youngster? That's the question there. Hinchcliffe's car is beginning to look a little less stable than it was in the early laps.
Well, I wonder how much of that's the car, how much of that's the driver, because I think James Hinchcliffe is finding himself for the first time in his motor racing career at this level in virgin territory.
It is tough, but he's won races in Atlantics in the States. Not quite the same physical stress levels, perhaps, as in these A1 cars, which I know you, John, have found that they're heavy to drive on the arms and the shoulders.
Yes, the difference between driving a car like a Formula Atlantic, as Hinchcliffe raced in America, is that you get a lot of G-load on your head and your neck. A1GP cars have got a lower level of downforce, but they're a physically heavier car, so the strength that you need in your upper body, in your forearms, your biceps, your shoulders, your abdomen is quite different, and that's the difference between the racing experience that Alex Young has got and that of James Hinchcliffe, still leading this race and really under even more pressure as we go down. There'll be 9 laps when they come across start-finish line.
So the feature race is gradually counting down here at Brno in the Czech Republic. Malaysia just relentless in the chase of Team Canada. Malaysia wants to make it 2 wins out of 2 here. Watch the power boost as they come on to the start-finish straight. Canada goes for it again, and Malaysia going for it as well this time. So that's going to cancel each other out. But Canada going for the inside line. He might pick up rubbish on his tyres doing that.
That's always the danger of going offline. But Malaysia clearly quicker into the corner. Got more momentum all the way through the corner. The back of Canada's car beginning to look a little bit unstable. Can he do something going up into turn 3? Clearly Hinchcliffe is concerned. He's taking the inside line. Young goes to the outside. He's not going to sweep around the outside, but he will find better track position as he comes out of turn 4 on the run, the downhill entry into turn 5.
Let's see if he can do anything here as they come out of 4. Ooh, and not quite. Hinchcliffe did well there to cover the inside, get off the corner quickly enough, and there was nothing that Malaysia could do about it, although he's going, mistake there from Alex Young.
Yes, he was thinking ahead of where Hinchcliffe is, not where he was on the racetrack. But, you know, when you're racing as closely as that, you've got to think ahead. At the same time, you've got to keep a focus on where you are in relation to the car you're battling. But this really is getting intense. Alex Young squeezing every corner, the rear of the Team Canada car.
It's getting very tight indeed there again, a bit wide, the Canadian car. Notice how the Malaysian car was right over the painted curb, but the white and red Canadian car was a touch wide. Didn't really slow him down, but it's another indicator that the Canadian car just moving around a bit more, whereas that yellow and white Malaysian machine looks very stable on the apex of the corners.
Well, Alex Young has put Canada under great pressure for the last couple of laps. He may decide just to wait and give the same sort of treatment to Canada in the closing laps. We're now 9 laps to go, 8 when they come across start-finish line. Alex Young can't continue to drive like that because physically, as well as just the practical perspective, you can't do it. So he's going to drop back, maybe just drop to half a second or so behind the young Canadian. And then as we go into the final 4 or 3 laps, once again apply that torture.
Well, those 2 across the line, as you say, with 8 laps to go now. The gap just 0.6 of a second. Not quite as close as he was last time around, but still filling the mirrors of James Hinchcliffe's car through turn 1. A bit of a slide again there for Canada.
Yes, but James Hinchcliffe has done, we've talked about remarkable jobs from the young drivers that we've seen in this year's series, certainly in Zandvoort. We are seeing another star in the making. A man who came here simply just to do the rookie run on Friday morning.
Yeah, and then got the nod because his pace was so impressive. It was going to be Sean McIntosh to race. Sean did get a run, but after each had a go, the team decided that it was going to be James Hinchcliffe who would get the nod this weekend. Use the fact that he raced last week in Zandvoort, use that continuity to best effect. Oh, it's working at the moment, isn't it? There's a wonderful shot as they go down into turn 7. That's where all the people are sitting there on the banking and no doubt engaged by this battle for the lead, and also knowing that their man, in the Czech Republic car, of course, Thomas Enger, is still in a good third place.
But this is the battle for the lead of this race, this is the battle for victory in this race, is overshadowing what is another great battle going on for third place, with Thomas Enger, Salvador Duran and Nico Hülkenberg for Czech Republic, Mexico and Germany respectively, battling out, and they're as close, those 3 cars, as the lead 2 cars are.
Yeah, there they are. That's the blue, white and red car of the Czech Republic. Ahead of Team Mexico, Salvador Duran, and then right behind them is Team Germany. And remember that Germany had to fight his way up from that grid position of 16th after the crash in the sprint race.
And in fact, Team GBR are running down this trio as they battle for third place. Robbie Kerr has been able to use that clear air to his advantage to latch on. He's just sort of looking to throw the anchor out and catch it on the back of Team Germany to draw him up to make it a 4-way battle for third place.
Well, the leaders have just come across the line and back into a reasonable pace now. The last lap, both of them were a bit slow because they were both so busy fighting each other and getting onto dirty areas of track. But now they're back into the 1 minute 51s. That seems to be the sort of front-running pace. Germany put in a quick lap there and just again closing a little more to Mexico.
So as in the battle for the lead of this race, you've just got to give yourself a lap to recompose, think about it, work out where the car ahead of you is strong, but critically, more importantly, where it's weak. And then you've got to marry your strengths and your weaknesses, but principally your strengths against their weakness.
Watch New Zealand here, John, because they're catching Great Britain as well. They're running in 7th place, but New Zealand is definitely closing up to this group.
So we're going to have a 5-way battle for third place. There is New Zealand. And remember, Germany and New Zealand were the 2 cars that were involved in that incident. Oh, big lock-up going downhill. And that looked to come from Germany, in fact. Yeah. Hülkenberg, and a rear wheel lock-up. Not a front wheel. We haven't seen a rear wheel lock-up. And that's not something you want to encourage, because if you get a rear wheel lock-up as you turn into a corner, inevitably it means you'll enter the corner backwards. That's the wrong way.
Not a good idea. But he's one of those drivers who does something like that, and yet he loses no time. Look, he's still in this group. We're on board with third place Czech Republic, Mexico. The car behind then is Germany. And despite that lock-up, he didn't actually seem to lose any ground at all. That's always a mark of the real top drivers, is they can make little mistakes and still stay where they are.
Alex Young, I think, is beginning that march forward. The gap on the last lap was 3/4 of a second. There you see it, 0.769. Watch and see what happens as they come through the final 2 turns onto start-finish straight. It's probably within a 1/10 of a second of that, but I think Alex Young once again is beginning to wind it up, put the pressure on again.
He is. Canada was a touch wider through the corner. Across the line, it's only 0.4 of a second. Anybody going for power boost? No, they're keeping that in reserve, maybe for the last stage of the race, as Malaysia takes a tighter line into turn 1.
He also carried a lot more speed, which indicates that he's got a lot more bite and grip from his tyres. Now, for the first time, the realistic opportunity that Alex Young might start to look very racy, get alongside into turn 3. Again, he's got to be courageous and go around the outside. He falls back in line, takes the tighter line. Now can he make the switch back on the exit? We saw that James Halliday was very strong when he had that challenge 2 laps ago. Equally strong this time.
He's good off that corner though, Canada, and Malaysia has to again go take the wider line. Hinchcliffe very, very good off turn 4.
Yeah, but Hinchcliffe went so far offline, he went on the very dirty part of the racetrack. You could see the dirt billowing in the air, so that gets impregnated into the tyre. That means his tyre's going to have less grip, more pressure. There it comes. Can he go down the inside into turn 8?
He's got it. Malaysia side by side with Canada.
Contact!
They touch. Canada spins off, and Malaysia takes the lead.
Well, that was a battle that we consider. He may still retain second place, but that was side by side racing. You can't ask for closer than that. But will he be swallowed up by second, third, and fourth? 5th places, yes, he is. Can he clean his tyres up? Enger's alongside. He's going to get that position as he drops downhill into turn 10.
Czech Republic's going to take second place. Yes, it does. Thomas Enger, there's a big cheer from the grandstand in front of us here, and a bit of of flag waving going on the banking as Thomas Enger takes second place for the Czech Republic, but now Canada's under threat from Mexico and then Germany.
Remember, all that dirt in your tyre takes the best part of half a lap to get your tyre back to standard. In the meantime, you're slipping and sliding all around the racetrack. Duran's got grip, he's got drive up the hill, he's going to look down the inside into turn 13. It's covered by Canada, but Duran clearly will have the quicker car. Can Hinchcliffe recover to keep the car in second place? Germany now all over the back of Mexico.
This is giving Germany a huge opportunity as well, and Great Britain, don't forget, not fired back, and New Zealand. Here comes Mexico. Mexico trying to get past Canada. Salvador Duran's a hard racer. He's going to try and go around the outside.
He's got the speed. He has the speed. He's got the bite. Look at Germany. Germany's now going to try and find a way past the young Canadian. His car, the back end of the car, he has lost grip. Germany has got bite front and rear. He's alongside. It'll be a battle into turn 3. Hinchcliffe seeing his lead evaporate. He's seeing second place go. Third place is gone. Lock up from Hulkenberg going into turn 3, but he's got the job done. Now pressure from Team GBR and New Zealand.
Oh, that was a good move again from Hulkenberg. He just went right round the outside, and although Canada's struggling for grip, that was still brave from Team Germany. But now, poor old Canada, the tyre grip just has gone away for James Hinchcliffe. That spin didn't help either, and he's struggling. Look at New Zealand though, with Great Britain there. The two of them are so tied up with each other, they're having to worry about that rather than getting past Team Canada.
And all of a sudden the race fans here in Brno have woken up. They realise that their man Thomas Enger, the local boy, although he lives 250 kilometres from here, is about to take a podium position. 9.2 seconds behind race leader Alex Young. No chance of taking victory other than, and is that running off from Canada, I think it was indeed, who ran off track. No chance of taking victory on pure pace. We never know if this race will be done and dusted until the checkered flag comes out.
So Canada's nearest challenger now is Great Britain. Let's take another look at how this happened, John, for the lead.
Dirty tyres on Canada, more speed off the corner. Young goes down the inside. It's virtually, not quite wheel by wheel, but in effect Malaysia had done enough to take that corner. James Hinchcliffe thought he could get away with it. It didn't happen. And there we see the joy in the Malaysia pit lane on the pit wall. They've got the lead of the race. Is this going to be a double for Malaysia this afternoon? There's no challenge on racetrack. Now, whether that incident will be investigated by the stewards, in my opinion, that was a racing incident for the lead of the race, and I would have no complaint.
Czech Republic second place, Mexico third, Germany fourth, Canada now fifth, sixth place for Great Britain, seventh place for New Zealand, then China still running in eighth, Netherlands in ninth, Switzerland in 10th. Behind them we've got South Africa, Lebanon, Ireland in 13th, Brazil dropped to 14th, Indonesia, USA, Australia, India 18th, Singapore 19th, and then Italy. Bit of a lock-up again, and here comes New Zealand trying to have a go at Great Britain.
But not far enough up. It's Nico Hulkenberg, the Team Germany car, that is constantly locking up a rear wheel. Now, why that should be, normally you've got a brake adjustment in the car, you can put more braking on the front, but it may be that he's got a problem with his brakes and he's put more braking on to the rear because his front brake has been failing. He might have been getting a long pedal. That's one way you can help rectify it. Look again at this battle with Mexico and Canada. More speed for Mexico, gets up, goes around the outside of the corner. That's the clean line. Hinchcliffe had to concede, and Germany nearly got by at the same point.
Yeah, almost able to take advantage of it, but they were able to take advantage at the very next corner. So for Team Mexico, a potential podium finish here for Salvador Duran. He's in that third place now and really has fought back after a difficult qualifying session yesterday, and is going to be back on the podium. And of course, in terms of points for Mexico, who came into this in second place in the points, it could be enough to put them ahead. It's going to be close actually, no, because Germany's right up there too, of course. They're running in fourth place. I think Germany will just about retain the lead in the points. Malaysia will be working their way up the order as well. It's all going to be pretty tight at the top of the points table. But we're looking at the Czech Republic now running in second place, quite a long way behind the leader. Let's just see what that gap is. Malaysia's already crossed the line. It's on 8.7 seconds, so unless Malaysia has a major problem here, the Czech Republic's going to have to settle for second, but that would still be the best result for any nation on home turf.
And if Germany continue in fourth place, that should give them a total of 20 points, 1 point ahead of Mexico, as we go then to Peking for the race, or Beijing as it's now, in China.
Another lock-up. Again, it was no, it wasn't the German car actually at that time, I don't think. That might have been the Czech car. Look at New Zealand. Again, very, very close to the back of Team GBR. This is a fight that's going to go to the flag with just under 3 laps to go.
But I mean, really, you're looking now at how much gas in the tank have these drivers got. Forget about the cars, they'll have plenty of fuel on board. It's down just to the physical reserves, the stamina of the drivers. Tiredness sets in, concentration begins to lap, errors begin to eke in, and I suspect that in large part that's what resulted in James Hinchcliffe making that little error where he got the dirt on the tyres. It gave Alex Young the opportunity to get alongside, and once he got alongside he was going to take the lead, and James Hinchcliffe regrettably had that spin in turn 9.
Yeah, and of course by spitting out of that position then meant that he slipped further down the order. Perhaps he could have held on to second, but as it is, he's now slipped down to 5th place, Team Canada, but he's still ahead of these two, Great Britain and New Zealand, who are still separated by about half a second with just over 2 laps remaining. There is the Malaysian car, and it does look very good for a double victory for Team Malaysia here in Brno in the Czech Republic. Comes across the line this time with 2 to go, around 7 miles, and then Alex Young will be able to celebrate for real. Had a good time in the sprint race, but what a hard drive this has been in the feature. Down into turn number 1 then. Still getting applause for Thomas Enger as he comes across the line now in the Czech car. But so far it's been pretty much a perfect performance by this guy, Alex Young.
And I think what is very impressive is the way that Alex Young has conserved his tyres in particular, but also great credit to Alex Young and the Team Malaysia engineers to give him a car that was gentle on the tyres. This was always going to be a race about tyre management, conservation of your tyres. Align that to fatigue, concentration, then you have got a strong package, and Alex Young has got that experience of long races. He knows how to pace himself, and we saw graphically he knows how to apply pressure, and he did it in a way which is a real masterclass for anybody who happened to be watching.
Canada still gamely holding on to that 5th place. Would have been easy for Hinchcliffe to totally lose concentration after his mishap in the battle for the lead. Okay, he lost a few places, but he hasn't completely lost concentration because he's managing to stay ahead both of Great Britain and New Zealand as well. I'm not sure if there's going to be any change here. Looks as though everybody's pretty much used up their power boost opportunities. Malaysia still has 1 available. These guys... Canada there, actually through that little stadium section, was able to eke out just a little bit more of an advantage again over Great Britain and New Zealand. Confirmation of how much power boost is left amongst the leaders. Malaysia 1 available, Canada 1 available, Great Britain 1 available. China still has 2. They haven't used all their power boosts. They're running down in 8th place still. So it looks as though China's going to be in the points for the second time today, just ahead of the Netherlands and Switzerland. Outside the points, South Africa, Lebanon still outside the points. When we're surely going to see Lebanon get their first point soon, but it's not going to happen here in the Czech Republic. And behind them Ireland, Brazil and Indonesia. But the last lap has begun, and Alex Young is heading for 2 wins in Brno.
He has backed off. His last lap was it was 150.8, but the gap is down to 8 seconds, and the lap time of the Czech Republic is now stabilised as well. So certainly Malaysia, it'll be a comfortable run to the checkered flag. Czech Republic is still going to be mindful of Mexico, but I think that these 3 cars that we see on camera have just about decided that we'll take what we've got. Czech in 2nd place, Mexico 3rd, Germany 4th, Canada 5th.
Great Britain kicked up the dust a bit through turn 2, but I don't think any major dramas. Riding back on board with Malaysia, and Alex Young, he took advantage of that accident between New Zealand and Germany at the start of the sprint race. He dived through to take the lead into turn number 1, and from there on he just controlled that race. This one has been a bit more difficult. Didn't make a good start at all, Alex Young. He really was a bit slow off the line. Canada dominated the early stages. Great pit stops from both Canada and Malaysia, and then Malaysia gradually wore down the gap between himself and Canada. They went wheel to wheel. There was slight contact, and Malaysia emerged ahead. Canada fought gamely, and James Hinchcliffe is a star, there's no doubt about it. I think he's still going to hold on to 5th as he stays where he is right now, but it's the Czech Republic that is going to finish 2nd, and looks like Mexico's going to be 3rd. But I mentioned there for Germany, they've come up from 16th to 4th.
Yes, I mean, it's a stunning drive, and really, had those drivers not got together, that's New Zealand and Germany in the sprint race, you might have seen a totally different complexion on this feature race, because those 2 nations had in qualification the class of the field. As Alex Young comes out of the final corner.
Alex Young takes Team Malaysia to their 3rd win of A1GP. He takes the double here in the Czech Republic, and by a comfortable margin in the end. And now he enjoys the moment, beats the steering wheel. Czech Republic, best ever finish for a home nation. as Thomas Enger locks up in celebration. Mexico finishes in third. That was also a great effort. And Germany takes fourth, coming from 16th on the grid. Canada surviving to finish in 5th place. Still a good effort from James Hinchcliffe.
Yes, I mean, in many ways, he is the driver of the day for doing something. He didn't get employed to come here and do a race, let alone do a 38 laps feature race. So really, James Hinchcliffe should leave this event feeling very proud, as should Canada, of his drive.
And some other impressive performances there. Great Britain finished in 6th, New Zealand 7th. China in the points again in 8th place. The Netherlands in 9th place. And the final point for 10th position going to Switzerland, who were leaders, of course, in the early stages when they decided to make a later pit stop. But ultimately, I'm afraid, that gamble that they played to see whether that would earn them a bit of pace in the latter part of the race didn't really work out to their effect. So, great reception here for Thomas Enger, and I think this second place will mean a huge amount to him. He's had a lot of international success in sports car racing, but to race in an A1GP car in front of his fans, in front of the crowd, here at a circuit that he was telling me the other day he could drive virtually blindfold, it's still a major achievement. And you could sort of feel the pressure he was under this weekend to deliver, and he has delivered. He took advantage of Canada's misfortune at the end, and he was there in the right place to take a strong second place. So second to Czech Republic, third place to Mexico, and that keeps Mexico right up there in the battle for the overall honours. But of course Germany finished only one place behind them, so the point situation is going to be very, very close indeed between Germany and Mexico. And of course Malaysia is getting a bit closer too, because they'll be on some 16 points as a result of their performance here today. That's the area where Thomas is really going to lap up the adulation, I think. You can see the flags waving. He's going nice and slowly on the inside, and he's making the most of this time. Let's see, is he going to do any spins? Yeah, he's going to do some donuts as well. You can hear that poor engine on the rev limiter, and he's laying the rubber down and putting on a show for the fans. Great stuff from Thomas Enger. And he'll get quite a reception, I think, when he comes back to the pit area here and the grandstand's just below us. Look at that. Whoa! Did he mean to do that? I'm not quite sure he did, but he doesn't care. Change down a couple of gears and off he goes again. Great stuff. Real showman is Thomas Enger, and that's why he's got so much support. But already back in Parc Fermé is the race winner for the second time today. It is Alex Young. He'll put the steering wheel back on, otherwise he'll get into trouble. You've always got to put the wheel back on for the scrutineers. And now he can really begin to celebrate. There's the team. They had the victory in the sprint race to end last year at Shanghai. He took the sprint race victory today. Difficult time in Zandvoort. That's a problem that he had when he clipped another car off the grid on the formation lap, bending the suspension. But he showed pace there, had a fastest lap, so it showed that the car was quick. Second place to Czech Republic. We're still waiting for Thomas to come back, but third place man there, Salvador Duran, recovering after a difficult qualifying session and proving to everybody that he can just get his head down and focus and concentrate and deliver.
Welcome back to Brno, a first A1GP race day in the Czech Republic and a double win for Team Malaysia. The Czech Republic with their best ever finish for a home nation. They finished in second spot in the feature, Mexico in third, the double winners in the USA last season as well. And just a quick check on Team GBR, who finished in sixth place with Robbie Kerr in driving seats.